Laurie Strode, a model student and babysitter. On the other side, we have Michael Myers. At 6 years old, he killed his sister. 15 years later, he escapes a sanatorium. He's not a man. He's the personification of evil, unstoppable, emotionless, motiveless. The scenario, Michael has already cleaned out the neighbor's house and is now focused on Laurie. He has superhuman strength, resistance to pain, and a giant kitchen knife that never seems to dull. Laurie's arsenal? 2 scared kids, a knitting needle, and a wire coat hanger. Let's repeat that, a coat hanger. She should have died at least 5 times. When he appears behind the couch, when he stabs her in the arm, when he throws her down the stairs. The script was screaming, "Just die already." But Laurie refused. She hid the kids, improvised, and in the most iconic moment, stuck a coat hanger in the boogeyman's eye. She survived not by being stronger, but by being stubborn. She held on until Dr. Loomis showed up to pop a few caps and postpone the problem. Surviving Michael Myers doesn't get you a happy ending. It just gets you promoted to the main target for the sequel.
Ellen Ripley. The cargo ship Nostromo. The crew answers a distress signal and ends up bringing back an extra passenger, one that drools acid and has 2 mouths. The xenomorph. The perfect organism.
Let's analyze the odds. The crew has a captain, an executive officer, engineers, and Ripley, the warrant officer. The alien is a hunting machine, stealthy, lethal, and practically bulletproof. One by one, it eliminates the crew. Captain Dallas, technician Brett, engineer Parker, all professionals, all became alien chaps. Logically, Ripley was done for. She was alone, unarmed, with a monster on the loose and a cat to worry about. The only thing the script had in store for her was a gruesome death in a dark corridor. But Ripley had a secret weapon that no one else on the ship seemed to have.
She read the instruction manual. While everyone else acted on impulse, she followed the emergency protocol, triggered the self-destruct, and ran for the escape pod. And when the alien followed her there, she didn't try to fight it. She opened the damn door and ejected it into the vacuum of space. Ripley survived because, in the midst of chaos, she was the only one who kept her cool and used her brain. Sidney Prescott, a teenager trying to get over her mother's murder. The problem? A new killer shows up, obsessed with horror movies. He calls, asks questions, and if you get it wrong, well, the call gets dropped.
The villain here was different. He knew all the cliches. He knew the heroine always runs upstairs instead of out the front door. He knew the best friend is always a suspect. The script felt like it was written by him. And for Sidney, the situation was impossible.
Here's why it was impossible. It wasn't one, it was 2 killers. Her boyfriend and his best friend. Cornered, betrayed, stabbed. No final girl in history could survive that. The script demanded her end. But Sidney had an advantage. She knew the rules, too. She used fiction itself as a survival guide. She didn't run. She fought back. And in the end, she delivered the killing blow, not out of revenge, but out of pure screenwriting logic. Sidney survived because she stopped being the victim and became the director of her own movie. Sally Hardesty. After watching all her friends get turned into barbecue by a family of cannibals, she becomes the main course at a gruesome dinner party. The situation? Tied to a chair, surrounded by Leatherface, the psychotic hitchhiker, and a grandpa who can barely hold a hammer. There was no way out.
Her strategy for survival? None. She simply throws herself through a window, an act of pure desperation. She runs down the road with Leatherface and his chainsaw inches away. The script said she should trip and fall, but instead, what appears? The most random and convenient truck driver in movie history. Out of nowhere, a truck shows up, she jumps in the back and escapes, laughing hysterically while the sawman dances in frustration. She didn't survive by being smart, she survived because the script ordered a last-minute Uber.
Danny Torrance. On one side, a 5-year-old boy on a tricycle. On the other, his father, Jack Torrance, with the strength of a lumberjack, an axe, and the insanity of an entire hotel whispering in his ear.
Add to that a freezing hedge maze and a blizzard preventing any escape. Danny's chances weren't slim, they were non-existent.
Jack was bigger, stronger, and knew the maze. The script demanded the little boy be cornered and turned into an axicle. Any normal kid would have run in panic to a dead end. But Danny, at the height of desperation, had an idea worthy of a military genius. He retraces his own steps in the snow to trick his father. A 5-year-old boy, freezing, terrified, had the presence of mind to create a false trail. Jack, the adult, falls for it like a schmuck. Danny survived because the script gave a child the calmness and cunning of a war veteran.
Chris Washington was smart. He used the cotton from the chair to avoid being hypnotized. He used the deer head as a weapon. He did everything right. But in the end, he was cornered. Rose, his psycho girlfriend, had a rifle. Her dad was closing in. He was injured and in the middle of nowhere. Chris Washington was smart. He used the cotton from the chair to avoid being hypnotized. He used the deer head as a weapon. He did everything right. But in the end, he was cornered. Rose, his psycho girlfriend, had a rifle. Her dad was closing in. He was injured and in the middle of nowhere. The script prepared the darkest twist. Flashing police lights. For a black man, injured, standing next to the bodies of a white family, this wasn't rescue. It was the end. He would be blamed, jailed, or killed. The movie was ready to deliver its gut punch. But conveniently, it wasn't the police. It was his friend Rod, the TSA agent, who decided to show up at that exact second, in that remote location, driving a car with a siren. Chris's survival at the very last second didn't depend on him. It depended on the script deciding his friend was the most punctual and lucky guy on the planet.
Ash Williams, a regular guy who just wanted a weekend at the cabin with his girlfriend. But he reads a book made of human skin and unleashes a demon. Classic. His friends get possessed, his girlfriend turns into a monster, and his own hand decides it wants to kill him.
Any normal person would have died from shock, fear, or infection, especially after cutting off their own hand with a chainsaw. But not Ash. The script gave him a superpower: insanity. Instead of bleeding to death, he goes into the workshop, modifies the chainsaw, and perfectly attaches it where his hand used to be. He didn't just survive a self-inflicted amputation, he got an upgrade.
Ash's survival is impossible because biology and sanity were thrown out the window. He survived because the script decided that a guy with a chainsaw for a hand was just too cool to die.